What's going on, everyone? This is William A. Thomas, just coming to you guys with a quick video from my car. I had on my mind as I was driving, I was thinking about Nick Cannon. You know, Nick Cannon's been in the news a lot lately, and if you're completely unoblivious to what's been going on over the last week, Nick Cannon has been in the news, especially over a podcast that he had did with Professor Griff. Sorry about that. Professor Griff. And during that podcast, there were some statements that were made that weren't particularly taken well from the Jewish community as well as the white community, even though I guess most of the impact was from the statements he had said in regards to the Jewish community. So since then, there have been a lot of twists and turns. Nick Cannon was fired by his employer, Viacom. He was also, his show, Wildin' Out, it was actually canceled. I don't know if it's still on the cancel status, because since then I know that he has met with a rabbi. The video of that is out there. You could look it up at any time. In addition to that, he had put in additional statements basically apologizing. But here's one thing I want to focus on. You know, there are probably a plethora of videos speaking about, you know, whether his statements were anti-Semitic, whether they weren't, whether he should apologize, whether he should not. I'm not even focused on that. You know, I always look in anything, in anyone's business, there's always business. That's one thing that I like to live by. So let's talk about the business aspect of this. So Nick Cannon is an employee for Viacom. In that aspect, as an employee, he has created certain content. So Wildin' Out, you know, it says on the production information that it was basically produced by Nick Cannon's production team. So what that means is that all the physical stuff that's being done, most of the you know, the direction, the writing, the content, whatever, that's being done by Nick Cannon's production company. So you would think that it's his, right? Well, not necessarily. Even if you were in a situation where you were to do everything on the physical and everything on the technical end, it doesn't necessarily mean that you own the property. Here's the key word: intellectual property, right? So when we think of intellectual property, we're talking about things that are in here. And believe it or not, you can buy, sell, trade, own things that are up here, the intellectual property. So that's where things where like patents, trademarks, copyrights come into play, service marks, all of those things come into play. So one of the contentious issues is if Nick Cannon owns the IP rights to that property, does he have the, you know, the patent or the, you know, the copyright of you know, that show? That does he own that trademark? That stuff, the documents are, it's up in the air. Only Nick Cannon and Viacom and a slew of attorneys who are going to probably be making a lot of money in between know the answer to that. But you know, since most people are not in Nick Cannon's situation, it would really be favorable to know a little bit about that. So let's talk about a couple of different situations of where that matters. Now, when I was younger, I used to watch professional wrestling, WWF at the time. I wasn't really into WCW as much, but if you were, I'm not going to judge you. There are also, you know, smaller groups or companies that do wrestling, professional wrestling, but all in all, it's entertainment. So whenever you have someone with a name, like let's say that, me, William A. Thomas, I just said I'm going to be the, I don't know, the Dark Knight, for example. Well, there may be a problem with me attempting to use that name for a plethora of reasons, especially since there is a Dark Knight. He's not black, but there is a Dark Knight that exists within the DC comic book universe. Other people, like, Hulk Hogan. I forgot his name. It's Paul, whatever. But everyone knows him as Hulk Hogan. The guy with the blonde mustache at the time, the big biceps, hitting the leg drop and everything like that. Well, for some time, he didn't actually own the rights to that name. In fact, a really good story is that for some time, Marvel actually owned Hulk Hogan. Would you have ever thought that? Who knew that? So he had initially had names like the Incredible Hulk Hogan. So Marvel actually went and purchased the copyright rights to that name. Everyone knows the Incredible Hulk. And in fact, it was pretty funny that in one of the issues, there was one where the Hulk was just thrashing and beating Hulk Hogan over, his name, who's the strongest and stuff. But whatever the case, back to the point, I digress, is that Hulk Hogan did not own the rights to that name for some time. And even when he had transitioned to WCW, the permission had to be given by Marvel for him to be able to do that. So when you're going into business, anything, or if you're writing something, a script, a movie, a song, you want to make sure that you own the copyright information to that. And there are different levels of complexity. Of course, things have to be witnessed and so on. For the in-depth analysis to it, I recommend to talk to an intellectual property, for short IP, attorney who can actually navigate you through those waters. In fact, what I'll probably do is I'll leave a resource in the description or comments, for you to be able to access that. But, back on that, at some point, Hulk Hogan actually did gain the rights to his moniker or his name, but in some situations you've seen people get around it, like Stone Cold Steve Austin. They had to change their legal name so they can continue using those names, because ultimately the name's going to be owned by the WWF or E at this point, and so on. So yeah, what a lot of people did to get around that is they actually changed their legal name. Hilarious, right? Ultimate Warrior was another one who did that. He changed his legal name to Warrior. Yep, check it out. Other situations where this may matter, let's say that you work for a university. For some time, there was a thing with universities to where if you produce something or had an idea, even if it was unrelated to the work that was being done, like let's say that you were a chemist looking for a cure for cancer, but in your off time you had created real life flubber or something of the sort. Sorry for the shaking, guys. But whatever the case, let's say you had done that. Well, if you were at one of those universities that had those type of agreements, that patent for flubber may be owned by the university. I think that Stanford University has actually taken an opposite approach to that for years, to where they're saying like, hey, go ahead and create things, come up with things. If you do it, it's yours. But everyone doesn't. So you got to keep those things in mind. One of the terms you want to look into is work for hire. that's one of the most important things to know. When you are work for hire, whether it's an employee or a contractor, you may, depending on the terms of the agreement, have given up the rights to any intellectual property that is acquired in the process of the job or the contract. So keep those things in mind, folks. If you are in a position where you're coming up with new ideas, if you're coming up with inventions and things like that, don't try to go at it alone. Talk to an intellectual property attorney. Talk to, one that's, not a tax attorney, not a criminal defense attorney, but talk to an expert in that area. So that's all I really wanted to say, folks. And, with that, I'll leave that as some food for thought, and you guys can do the dishes. All right, guys.